OCD, anxiety, and bullying. Welcome to my channel, guys. This is Gogo Reacts featuring Brian Davis. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and Brian's as well. Tell me about your OCD, the first time you noticed that you had it or suspected that you had it.
Well, that was at a really young age. From a really young age, I can remember myself just being worried about things that would happen, but not real events. Like, I would just always have anxiety about something bad would happen to my mom, something bad will happen to my dad. And as I got older and started to understand emotions more, is when the OCD really kicked in, and it started relating these bad things happening to obsessions and rituals that I would need to perform. So like an example would be like at night when I turn my light switch off. If I didn't turn that switch off 3, 4, 5, 6 times until it felt right, then that meant something bad would happen to my mother. It's really hard for a lot of people to understand because, like, to you and even to me and people with OCD, they know that turning off a light switch doesn't correlate to anything other than that, but the body will produce an actual physiological response. So you'll feel as if that danger is real, and that's really what keeps people in that loop.
In the beginning, when you started noticing this, how did your family react?
My mom and dad, I think that they were pretty scared in the beginning. They were worried about it being other things like schizophrenia or like disassociating from myself. So it was probably pretty scary for them. They always kept a strong face and did what they needed to do to get me the help. But talking to my mom about it now, it was pretty scary for them and stressful for them because they worried what kind of life that I would lead.
At what point did you know that it wasn't schizophrenia? Because that was my first thought.
Well, at that young of an age, you're definitely going to want to seek professional guidance. But OCD is more of like your mind is telling you. So there's not a figure in front of me that appears that talks to me. There's not another voice in my head that's not mine. It's like if everybody can relate to having like a little bit of OCD. Like you leave your house and then that voice tells you, did I turn off the coffee pot?
Yeah.
Did I shut the garage door? And then the anxiety starts, and maybe that day you go back home and you check.
Yeah.
But it's that on like times 100. I'd go to doctors and they would do little scenarios, have me draw all the people that live in my house. And it was always only the people that lived in my house. So they would ask questions like, well, where is this voice? Who is this person that's telling you that? And then through things you start to realize, and you can explain that it's not, it's just your own mind telling you these things.
Yeah. So they made you do these exercises.
Exactly. Yep. They make me do these exercises and ask me specific questions, trying to figure out what my answers would be. And I think I went to treatment and I went to therapy for about a year before they diagnosed me. And I was diagnosed at like a really young age. Some people, OCD starts in their teens and middle school, things like that. Mine started at a very young age, as long as I can remember.
These exercises, did they alleviate the pressure in the moment, or did that work for you throughout the day? Like you were calm?
I have to say that treatment as a child, it was difficult because back in the 90s and the early 2000s, they didn't really understand OCD the way that they do now. And they surely didn't treat it the way that they do now. So those exercises and things, at first, at a really young age, they made me feel kind of like an outcast. Like I had something wrong with me. Like I was the only person that dealt with this stuff. And I went and saw different doctors. You know, as you get older, you try to find somebody that connects with your son. For my parents, you know. And I remember being like 13 or 14 and being at this doctor's office. I think it was Dr. Jeremy was his name. He really helped me to understand that this is something that a lot of people deal with and that I wasn't alone. So that helped for a while, helping me feel not alone. But to be honest with you, the actual treatment of my OCD didn't begin until, honestly, maybe about a year ago, because that's when I really sought out the exposure response prevention treatment that actually can get you to habituate to that anxiety. You have these obsessions, and then and then once you have these obsessions, your anxiety spikes. And in order to make that anxiety go down, you do these rituals. So I would turn the light switch off again and again and again. Or another one would be like, you seek reassurance. You ask the people around you, am I okay? Am I okay? Until the anxiety goes back down. And that's just setting you up for another loop. So at some point, you have to feel that anxiety and do nothing about it. And that's the really, really challenging part, especially for people that have been struggling with OCD for years and years and years.
Yeah. The exercise that you did as a child compared to the exercises you do now, what are the differences?
Not understanding it as deeply as we understand now, my parents would try to help me. They would try to turn the light switch off for me. They would try to do things to help me, and that's really not the right thing to do. And as they learned that that's not the right thing to do, they try to refrain from interfering in my rituals. Man, when you see your child in pain, they want to do whatever that they can, whether right or wrong. Today, treatment is much different because I do exposure response prevention, and it's exactly what it sounds like. I expose myself to the things that trigger my OCD, and then I prevent myself from doing any type of response. So I'd find myself just thinking through a scenario. I'll touch a door handle and see something red on it and think, oh my God, that's blood. And now I've contracted something, and for a while I would go to the doctor and I would make up a scenario so that they blood test me and make sure that I don't have anything. When my daughter was born, my life mattered. I can't be getting sick. I have to be there for my daughter. So contamination OCD kind of kicked in for me. Some people have certain subsets. My OCD covers the whole board. I do all of them. So I'll do things that trigger my contamination OCD. Of course, we're not going to go out. We're not going to touch things that are dirty. That's not what they want you to do. But they want you to do things every day. I'll write down HIV. And that will make me scared, man. That'll make me feel as if writing it means that I have it. And then I'll just sit with that feeling. I'll sit with it. I won't try to push it out. I'll just sit with it until my anxiety starts to go down, and then I know I can move on. Whenever I have one of those obsession thoughts, allowing it to be there but not engaging with it, not thinking about it, not seeking reassurance from others, just allowing it to be there. And through doing that, you teach your brain that, hey, there's no danger here, because people with OCD, their amygdala is misfiring. So it will misfire. And in order to teach the brain that that's not the correct time to fire, you have to not only not engage when it happens in normal life, but you have to prompt it. So you have to actually willingly grab a pair of scissors and hold them. You have to do it purposefully to teach the brain, oh, he's going to do it on his own. There must not be danger here. I have this philosophy where when you deal with the things in your life that bother you, whether it be something with a mental health or just a personality trait, when you work on those things, you get to know yourself better than somebody that doesn't work on those things, that doesn't think it's important to work on the things that bother them about themselves. So I feel like I've gained such a good understanding about who I really am. It's going to be really, really hard in the beginning, but most people find treatment once they've been living in hell. My life was so small and so consumed with anxiety all the time that I was like, I'm already living in the anxiety. I'm already living in panic. So why not do this in a constructive fashion? And it's challenging, man. I have to every single day regulate my brain. I have to get up and start my day.
So how do you juggle being a father and being there for your daughter, playing with her, and then sometimes being mentally drained and still being able to be there for her?
It's just what you have to do. Luckily, I got into ERP treatment at a time where my daughter was young. I've been in treatment for about a year, so she was just over a year old when I started it. So she didn't need so much of my attention with my emotions. You know, she needed me to carry her and feed her and put her to sleep. Now as she's older and she wants to talk and she can tell how you're feeling, it's difficult, but man, I've been dealing with OCD so long that when there's something more important, and there's only a couple things in this world that come before my OCD, those things come first, and OCD can tell me whatever it wants to tell me.
You'll tune it out.
I'll tune it out. If I have to be there for my daughter, I don't care what anybody else is saying, let alone my mind that I've been trained since 9 years old to understand is not telling the truth. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's not much different than dealing with anxiety like you talked about being bullied, you know? It's just being bullied by your own brain. How do you overcome your bullying? Because you were born with some things the same way that I was born with some things that make life a little bit challenging. So I'd really like to learn how you dealt with bullying and kind of have moved past that in your life.
Yeah, well, as you saw in the video, as I showed you, I was born without 3 fingers. In the beginning, I mean, kids are kids. They're always going to be kids. They're curious. They don't really know what's happening when you tell them that I was born like this. They can't really process what you're saying. So they take it as you being weird or abnormal. For that, you're bullied. As a kid, you want to be accepted by the people around you. You often seek attention and you want to be a part of a group and be loved. And it's not always like that, because kids can be mean because they don't understand. But as you grow older, you realize that.
So you probably went through a period of time where you didn't feel accepted.
Definitely. I did not feel accepted by even my friends at times, because at times they would kind of gravitate towards what the bullies said and agree with them. Not all friends, but some of them. So that was even more difficult, because when you have friends, you always think that they got your back. But it's not always like that. And maybe they were just afraid to disagree with the bullies, because they would get beat up as well.
Yeah, oftentimes taking a stand and standing alone is the toughest thing to do. You know, if you're getting bullied all the time and everybody's chiming in, even as a child especially, even if you want to stand up for your friend, to be that guy that stands alone, it's a difficult thing. And I think you nailed it on the head when you say, you know, kids want to be accepted. So they're going to do things even if it's hurtful to others to become accepted. And it's just, I think it's really awesome, because a lot of people that deal with things that everybody deals with, they don't channel it and work on it like I was talking about. They seek alcohol, or they want to get rid of their feelings. And I think it's great to see that you've gone through things as well, and you're where you are now dealing with it in a healthy manner. Just like you said, some people overcome it and some people succumb to it. And I didn't. I didn't choose alcohol or to become a juvenile delinquent or anything like that. I chose the good path, and it's because of my grandmother and other family members that supported me. Because you can choose either the good way or the bad way, and I had support, but not everyone has support. So just because I made it through a difficult time doesn't mean that everyone else will, and that doesn't mean that they're necessarily weak. They might not have the support that I had. So I think reaching out to people is a very important thing if you want to overcome a thing like bullying. Yeah, it's the support. It really is. Like without the support of my parents throughout my entire life, I mean, even today, without their support, I don't know where I'd really be. And without the support of my fiance, you know, she's so understanding, man. She takes the worst of it all. You know, she takes all of my bad attitudes at times when it's difficult, and she knows what I go through, and she's there for me. And it doesn't make it right. You know, it doesn't mean that we have to stop. Well, she has to just accept it. That's how I am. No, you know, you have to work on you, because even though they're your support system, they don't deserve to be treated badly. You know, so absolutely, it's a work in progress, and I think we're never done working on ourselves. And that kind of goes back to what I said about getting to know yourself. The things in my life that bother me about my personality or about the way I deal with things, I try to work on them. I'm trying to always work on them because I want to be a super stable person when my daughter's, 5, 6, 7 and needs me, I'm going to be able to help her through anything that life throws at her. You know as much as I do without getting into it. This world needs more good people.
Absolutely.
And so now it's just shaping and forming her into the best little girl that she can be. And then watching her go out and take on the world. Just allowing her to do that,